That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Black Phone, the seventh film directed by Scott Derrickson, which premiered at the 2021 Fantastic Film Festival and is being released courtesy of Universal on June 24th, 2022.
Do I know Scott's other films?
Yeah, I think quite a few of them. His last film was the first Doctor Strange in 2016. I am a fan of The Exorcism of Emily Rose, which is technically his first theatrical debut. Previous to that, he did a Hellraiser film that went direct to video. And I like the first hour of Sinister, which I think is a film you like more than I do. But I've also seen the Day the Earth Stood Still remake he did in 2008. Deliver Us from Evil with Eric Bana and Edgar Ramirez, which I don't think is very good. And I'm missing something.
Well, I know people are excited for this film. So was I. But this ain't it. This is not it.
I was kind of shocked at how bad it is, because at first I'm like, oh, maybe Scott Derrickson is just not good at directing children. And once we kind of disperse, we kind of isolate them from one another, it'll get better. And it does not. It does not at all.
Oh boy. Okay, the basic story is it's Denver 1978.
North Denver.
There are like adolescent boys being kidnapped. Mm-hmm. So we meet a kid named Finn. Mm-hmm. And Finn is like being bullied at school. We see him get beat up pretty badly at a point when he's kidnapped by this person. And the kidnapper is played by Ethan Hawke.
Known as the Grabber.
Okay, Finn is in this basement and there is a black phone attached to the wall, but the phone is not connected to anything. And the grabber tells his ass, like the phone rings and the grabber can hear it ring, but he's like, I don't know why it does that. It might be like the static electricity in the air, but stop picking it up. There's no one there, but there is. It's the spirits of the other young men he has kidnapped and murdered.
Boys,
sorry. Like adolescent boys. And they are warning him and giving him clues on how to get out. So we can get into their little clues, none of which get him out. So that's happening. Finn has a sister. What's that girl's name?
Gwen.
Gwen is like clairvoyant, mm-hmm. and she inherited that ability from their mom, who has since died. Okay, there's that happening. Then, Ethan Hawke, the grabber, his brother is staying with him, Max.
Played by James Ransone.
Who we know from the other...
From Sinister, who's Officer So-and-so.
And Sinister 2, I think.
Yep.
There's so much about this that made no sense to me, but everything culminates with the brother who not only is living with the grabber, he is also obsessed with the case. He has a little like wall of like all the newspaper clippings and a map of where everyone was kidnapped from, and he wants to solve this mystery. And it never occurs to him to like look around the house, and one day he's snorting cocaine and it dawns on him, maybe I should check this basement. And the brother goes down to the basement and sees Finn. And that's when Ethan Hawke shows up, kills his brother. But Finn has used all the little clues that these little spirits gave him to incapacitate Ethan Hawke and ultimately kill him. And his sister, the clairvoyant, she has notified the police. Like, I think, like, my dreams told me where my brother is. So the police are there. But the last gag is, like, Silence of the Lambs, the detectives are at the wrong house. They're at the house where Ethan Hawke is burying these dead boys, but he's keeping them somewhere else, across the damn street. Mm-hmm. So Ethan Hawke's dead, the police are there, Finn is able to escape the house. The end.
Immediately goes back to school.
Does not need therapy, I guess, but whatever. Oh, this is a mess.
What, this review or the film?
Both. Well, we're also filming this very late, mm-hmm. which is not usual.
Correct.
But I think we felt inspired because we were so bothered by the movie.
About how terrible it is. I was shocked at how bad it is. So it's based on a short story by Joe Hill, who, if you don't know it, is the son of Stephen King. And this feels, and I haven't read the short story, the text that it's based on, but this feels very much like cycled Stephen King themes. Balloons, boogeymen, the children in the background, and this kind of extreme bullying that goes on in all of Stephen King's films, novels dealing with children in any capacity. They are being bullied by somebody, whether it's Carrie White or the children from It, which this film feels like is really lifting a lot from. It feels completely derivative, but so we can drag all the correct people. Scott Derrickson co-wrote the script with C. Robert Cargill, who wrote Sinister for him, and Doctor Strange, the script. This film makes a lot of similar mistakes that I think to where Sinister really falls off for me, i.e. when you see those the spirits of the children, when they pop up in Sinister, all the tension leaves in that film for me. But this really has no tension from the get-go.
Okay, I'm just going to go through my notes. There's so many things I didn't like about it, but Finn and his sister, they are raised by their dad, like this single dad. And that dad is I think all of the acting is bad, except for Ethan Hawke, and we can get to his character. But the dad is played like he's this boozy characterization that reminded me of Jinx Monsoon as Judy Garland on Snatch Game.
He's not that good.
Well, he's not that funny, but he's just like he's... like it was shocking how ridiculous that characterization is.
He's played by Jeremy Davies, who's been around quite a bit, and I have actually fond memories of him from the 90s. He's in David O. Russell's debut, which is this really interesting incest comedy called Spanking the Monkey, which I recommend looking up. But yeah, he is all over the place in this, and there is a scene that I believe you compared to...
Well, there's a scene where he's beating the daughter because he's upset that she keeps referencing these dreams a la his wife. So he refuses to believe that his daughter might have inherited the abilities his wife had.
A la the Cranberries dreams.
So he's beating her, like, violently, but it's laughable. And the brother's there saying stop. And then the daughter, who's mouthy, we can get into this, she grabs his vodka bottle and says, if you hit me again, I'm going to drop your vodka. She does. He continues to beat her. And it literally feels like Mommy Dearest. Like Joan Crawford beating Christina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With this child actor that's kind of being very earnest in her performance, but and that's actually Gwen's played by Madeleine McGraw. That's one of her better scenes because again, everybody that wrote this has no idea how children interact and what they would talk about, and also has it's not even at Stranger Things level, which I also don't really think is very good in its personification of children. But
the main kid, Finn, he looks like a combination of like Jamie Lee Curtis and Jesse Eisenberg to me.
Jamie Lee Curtis when she's Laurie Strode in 1978, actually.
I thought he was okay. I mean, his acting isn't the worst of the children.
He's fine. He also is allowed to be the most subdued because he's the victim that's being acted upon.
But the dialogue is just, oh my God. It's just, trying very hard to like seem period, but then these kids are a little too loquacious and like... It just doesn't work at all. Especially like the way the
bullies are so over the top and atrocious. The detective Miller and Wright, they question
They're
Grace.
Garbage. They show up to the girls' school.
And they question her in the presence of the principal. And they're saying things like, how'd you know about the black balloons? Because you couldn't have known about that unless there's a leak in the department. Why would they tell this elementary school girl this?
So when Finn goes missing, the sister... she is trying to conjure up these visions. So she has like a dollhouse Jesus shrine that I thought was so corny. And not because I think it's hoodoo. It just looks stupid. And then she's telling Jesus she's saying out loud like, please Jesus, let me see where my brother is. I thought that writing was terrible.
And of course the dreams that are visited upon her look like the films that are discovered in Sinister. And there are even some visual motifs with the tree in there with the Ethan Hawke character.
Well, it's not necessarily all her dreams as much as it is... they're presented like we see all of the boys being kidnapped.
Yes, but also that's being kind of cross-cut with the images
Right.
she's seeing as well in her dreams.
So it feels very like derivative of Sinister, like, oh, this format worked, so let's put it on this shit. But then what I liked about Sinister were those like film, the film that we see, because we see these ultra violent deaths, and it was creepy.
But also,
in this movie,
it also gives it a sort of texture, a visual period texture.
But the footage in this film is unremarkable. It's just like, oh, the boy's walking alone, and then you see this black van. The grabber, Ethan Hawke, drives a black van that says abracadabra, and you see the black van pull up, and then only 2 of the 4 times we see the kidnapping do we actually see him grabbing the boy. The other times it's just like the boy's walking, and then all of a sudden the black van's going.
It fades out, yeah. Do you want to talk about the black balloons?
Might as well. So, no, I mean, there's just so much that doesn't make sense to me. So we hear that the detectives tell the sister at the school, how did you know about the black balloons? We didn't release this to the public, but like you said, at the scene of the crime, we found the black balloons. First of all, what purpose do the black balloons serve? Because watching the trailer, I assumed that this character is like a supernatural boogeyman type character, but he's not. He's using these balloons. I don't understand what the purpose of the balloons is. When he kidnaps Finn, that's the only time we see him do the full process. Mm-hmm. And it's in the trailer where he's like, he drops a bag of groceries
with eggs
and asks Finn, like, can you help me? And then he's like, you want to see a magic trick? And then Finn, because of his sister, knows that the kidnapper has black balloons. So what does Finn do? Get really close to the van and go,
says, are those
black balloons? And then, of course, Ethan Hawke grabs his ass. And then we see that he sprays something in their mouth.
That also affects their vision, yeah.
Like to incapacitate them. But how do they know that the black balloons are associated with this kidnapper?
Like,
does that mean that there were witnesses? And if there were, why isn't there like an APB and all over the media that there's a black van kidnapping kids?
Yes, because it doesn't. Where they popped on the ground, and they somehow were able to surmise that this is the cross street where the kidnapping happened. None of that makes sense.
So then I thought, oh, maybe like they found the dead bodies and there were balloons there. But then in the end, we find out that no, all of the dead bodies of those boys are in that house, the house across the street. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what purpose does do the balloons serve?
I also, all of the conversations he has with the previous children that had been abducted also play a little bit nonsensically, but also are used in a way that it's all these arbitrary clues that's like, I guess you can't communicate effectively with this kid to really help him.
But then they're communicating heavily.
They're communicating heavily, but not effectively, and it's like...
you're saying a lot without saying anything at all.
You should try... the one is like, you should try to dig your way under the foundation. How?
And then he does. He like starts digging.
He does.
But then the spirit tells him, I started digging. Oh my God! Again, so many things I didn't understand.
There's so many things that don't make any. But all of those.
Finn is like doing all the things. So he like removes like metal bars from the window. He digs a big hole in the ground. One of the spirits tells him to like punch a hole through one wall, which leads to
a freezer,
and all you have to do is unscrew some like panel, and so. But then, does Ethan Hawke never come into the basement to check to see what he's doing?
Apparently not.
Like, this is so stupid.
Because he's distracted by his brother suddenly visiting him. But all of those things work together for Finn to escape, including the freezer, which has frozen meat, and he needs that to give that to the dog.
Because there's a dog that's guarding him, and... Okay.
It's not clever storytelling.
No, going back to Finn being bullied, there's a pretty violent fight between... Because one of the boys who's kidnapped is Finn's friend.
Robin.
This Mexican kid who's like really good at fighting. The opening scene of the film is him like destroying some boy who's picking on him. So Finn is friends with this boy, mm-hmm. and there are 3 bullies always messing with Finn. But his friend steps in and says, I'm gonna whoop y'all asses if you don't leave my friend alone. But then he gets kidnapped. And the minute that boy gets kidnapped, the next scene are these 3 bullies chasing him, and they beat Finn up, like violently. And then the sister shows up
to intervene
and like badly injures one of the boys. They beat her up, which you don't often see young girls getting kicked the shit out of.
Yeah.
So that was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
I just don't. It just seems so like basic. Like, oh,
Because it is.
a way to make us feel sorry for this kid who was kidnapped because we need a reason to feel sorry for a kidnapped kid is to make him have a shitty home life and be picked on by kids at school.
And there's supposedly like a metaphor for resiliency, but...
Okay, my next note is controversial, but I thought Ethan Hawke as the grabber was kind of sexy.
He is kind of captivating in that mask because it's not grotesque in the right way.
And, we didn't mention, he's played kind of like, I can't say that word, kind of fey.
Yeah, they do try, but it doesn't have this movie doesn't have the guts to really kind of push that. Also because it probably doesn't want the flack of, of course, because we can't show anything remotely controversial.
Or we can't show gays being villains. So, but he's clearly like a pedophile and a child abductor. But
yes, but that would be going too far. But it's clear because he hints at it. Because Ethan Hawke's the few glimpses we get into his characterization, because there's really none, are that he's like, I'm not going to make you do anything you don't want to do.
No, he says, I won't make you do anything you won't like.
You won't like, and it's like, okay.
But. So he's kind of like, Ethan Hawke's a handsome guy, and then he's kind of being a little fey, and
he's got that great hair that's
yes,
around the mask.
Then the spirits tell the boy that the grabber has this routine where he wants you to be a naughty boy. So of course we're thinking like, oh, it's going to be sexual. No, he is setting up these boys. So like we see that he gives Finn breakfast and then he closes the door but doesn't lock it. And it's a test because the spirit tells him, if you try to escape, he's going to whoop your ass. And that's when you are a naughty boy. And then the next thing that happens is he kills you. So when we first see, the spirit tells him don't go upstairs because he's up there. And then stupid Finn goes up there anyway. And when he opens the door, Ethan Hawke is like sitting on a chair in a position that looks like he's prepared to receive something. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing the mask, which looks, whatever. And then he's like shirtless and his body looks very nice. And I thought that was interesting, like, because there's sort of an allure and an implied eroticism because clearly this person is sick and doing these things that probably have sexual undertones.
Yeah.
But of course, this old lame-ass movie's not going to dig into that. But... that being said, I felt a little strange that I thought that the grabber was kind of hot, but...
oh, yeah, or that, they didn't have a Beyonce reference to Naughty Boy. But...
I'm so tired, my next note is, I'm so tired of the phone. That black phone rings incessantly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it just gets to be so repetitive, and it really is...
It seems there's no point because the spirits don't need the phone to talk to him.
No, they don't. It's a metaphor.
So it's like, why couldn't they just...
And at the end when he has Ethan Hawke subdued, and the phone's ringing again, and he has to hold it to the receiver to his ear, and it's like, it's for you.
And the dialogue is... it's just all corny. I didn't understand why none of... all of the spirits who are calling Finn, none of them know their names.
Because they say that's the first thing you forget. Also, the rhyme and reason behind all of that.
Right. I get it that a person's been abducted and kept for a while and been robbed of their whatever. Yes, but the film doesn't really get into it. Also, the timing of it, because why would a serial child abductor / pedophile / murderer allow his brother to stay in his house where he keeps these boys? And then what is the time frame of like how long these boys are there that has allowed his brother to have this full like exploration and all this research done on this mystery?
Right. At what point did he show up? He's not working.
Why
it's
is he
established
there?
that Ethan Hawke has a job, that he has to leave the house often for to work.
Oh, okay. So we're told by one of the spirits that they had a padlock on their bicycle.
Oh God, yeah, that makes no sense.
And that the grabber took the lock and locked the door so he can't get out. But the spirit wrote the combination on the wall. So I'm so confused because, first of all, in this house, and we see that the front door is locked with a padlock. Does this mean every window and door in the house is locked? And if it is, the brother who lives there, what does he think?
Yeah, why does he think that this is there? And also, it's probably not the only point of entry.
Also, if the person who he took the lock from...
Did he get the combination from them? Did Ethan Hawke get the combination from this kid
he wouldn't
took the lock
have
from?
needed the lock.
Why wouldn't he bought his own lock?
Just little details that don't make sense to me at all. When so then sort of like the initial what we think is the climax that Finn is going to escape, one of the spirits tells him, "Oh, the grabber, he hasn't been sleeping." And he keeps hinting at him, like, just say it. If you're trying to save me, just tell me what the fuck you're trying to tell me. And ultimately the spirit says, well, he's sleeping because he's exhausted. Now's your chance to go. Go now. Finn goes up there. And Finn, the entire film, has this like rocket ship pen that he uses to stab Ethan Hawke when he first gets abducted. And this kid walks right by Ethan Hawke, asleep,
Sleeping.
shirtless on the chair, to go unlock the padlock. I was so confused because the first thing I would have done is taken that damn rocket ship and stabbed that fool in the neck.
And he gets out.
He gets out, running down the street, not screaming. Ethan Hawke jumps in his van, chasing him. And my next note is, these neighbors ain't shit, because
They know kids are being abducted.
they know
hear
kids are being
a child
abducted.
screaming.
They hear a child scream. They hear like a van screech and stop, and it pulls into like the sidewalk. It's not even parked.
Yeah, it's not
properly.
parked, it's-
And you see all the neighbors' lights turn on. Not a single person sticks their head out the window or opens their door. And then you see the lights turn off, and then Ethan Hawke takes the boy back into the house. That was so frustrating.
And then, you know, how this all culminates simultaneously, right? As he's just as he's coming to his face-off with Ethan Hawke, the sister has rallied the cops because she's received one last, you know, transmission from beyond. With
Well,
this-
really quickly, before she gets that last transmission, she goes back to her little shrine, and she's mad at Jesus.
And then it's like-
and she says, Jesus, what the fuck?
Oh, and everybody laughed at that. And
Like,
it's like,
what?
maybe you're not real. That transmission, which is set to Sweet's Fox on the Run, which does not fit whatsoever, and there's like this fight in over an arcade game, and this kid that gets abducted. Hated
Oh,
that.
that scene was terrible.
But of course, the clue that kid gives her, Gwen, is the house across the street where the boys are buried, even though that's not where he was murdered.
If you're trying to help, well, because then it begs the question, why are these spirits trying to help the boy? And then the one who you just referenced says, I'm not trying to help you. He basically like wants to destroy the grabber. But if that's your intention, then why did you point me in the direction of the wrong house?
Right. I mean, you know, it's the means to the end, but it's just so dumb and lazy storytelling.
Okay, so Finn's friend.
Oh, but she gets the cops to go there, and they're outside of the perimeter, and she's like, it's the house, it's in my dreams, and they just break in.
Yeah, no
Even though
search
it's
warrant.
Only 1978, I'm pretty sure.
You know, that's the least of this film's worries. But the Finn's friend, the Mexican boy who can fight,
Robin.
that's his name, Rob. Well, he doesn't know his own name, but there's a scene. So the reason he tells Finn, you have to stand up for yourself. You have to learn how to fight. And then there's a scene where this spirit is teaching Finn how to fight. And I wrote down $1 Million Baby.
Ooh.
That shit looks so stupid. Like, he's literally doing like back, forth, swing, practice again, do it again, back, forth. What?
Put a little dirt in the receiver to give it some heft.
some weight to it. Oh, can I talk about what I think would have been a better movie? I think we should have started the film with this boy waking up in a room and realizing he's been kidnapped. And then the phone starts ringing. And then these spirits are giving him clues as to what's happening and what they can do. And then maybe the first hour is him sort of collecting all these things. And then, of course, the obvious tension of not knowing when this kidnapper is going to pop in on him. And maybe there is some violence and some abuse. And then we get him escaping, but really it's a little more elaborate than that. And maybe like the cops are, I mean, if they want to, you know, rip off Silence of the Lambs and have the cops be at a different house, whatever. I think, again, haven't read the short story either, but it feels like they tried to make a lot out of a very little story. Or
Without saying anything at all.
Or we should have focused on the sister.
There's
Like,
some-
I don't understand why we have spirits talking to.
There are so many different alternate points of entry that could have made this more interesting. And also with the family, that Stephen King familial vein where it's passed down between generations, these kind of telekinetic powers. What if the mother, who doesn't really have all the details, is from beyond the grave trying to
Maybe
help him.
that, something, but it's too much. It's too much to have the clairvoyant sister and the mom who was clairvoyant, and then the spirits talking to him, which still doesn't help him get out. And then...
Or the Finn is having to take from his own resourcefulness and kind of conjuring up memories of things like in The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, for instance, where he has to kind of pool his resources by being alone in confinement and thinking about them. But yeah.
And then for sure I thought Ethan Hawke as the grabber was going to have a supernatural component. So it just feels like it's too many things that...
He needed some component. We get this complex mask situation which unhinges,
which did look cool,
which does look cool, and it's got a nice big long mandible, but Brando, but that has different expressions. You only ever see half of his face at one point, but it's like, does the brother not seeing that? There are just so many things, but why? Like, you get the sense that he has multiple personalities or something, because he tells Finn when he abducts him, like, somebody else did that, I didn't do that.
Oh, we need to end the video soon, but I did want to mention the grabber mentions to Finn when I was down here.
Mm-hmm.
So were you held in the basement for a while? And like, because then he also mentions that he can hear the phone.
Well, the spirit children say.
Right, but he also says, like, the phone, he acknowledges that the phone rings, sure, because he says, I think it's like static electricity, but don't pick it up, it doesn't do anything. What is the purpose of alluding to him perhaps having also been held captive? Because then it just raises a bunch of questions, like, how does he have access to this home? Did he inherit it from his parents?
In both homes?
And he has 2 homes across the street?
Yeah.
And are clowns, or he's not a clown, he's a magician. Is a magician in an old raggedy black van making that much money that he has 2 homes?
In North Denver in 1978? I don't know. Yeah, again, it's just like many things, there are too many questions. And I think I liked that they tried to make these spirit children kind of look like the interior of this basement, but even that's not strong enough. I almost would have liked it to be like they almost could have just popped out of the wall.
And the only scares are like very cheap,
lazy jump scares. Yes.
Okay, we need to end this video. What would you give it?
I would give it 1 out of 5.
Unfortunately, I would give it 1 out of 5. I wouldn't. If I paid to see this, I would be upset. I would say, like, if it's streaming somewhere and you already pay for the platform, then sure, but this was a no for me. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
New phone, who dis?
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.